Okay, we are now recording. Very exciting, you guys. So today, our guest performs all over New York, New Jersey, but hails from Oklahoma. He's opened for Mark Norman. I know Mark Norman has a huge following. That's so amazing. We are so excited to welcome Joshua Lay to Comedians Exposed. Joshua, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited. This was cool. I got to see you pretty recently, but besides that, I didn't really get to catch up, so this will be fun.
Yeah, it is exciting. It was Josh and I got to see each other now that, restrictions are lifting, people are out, comedy's happening. It was so fun to, be back out in that scene. How have you been doing? How did you make out during the year of a global pandemic?
Pretty crappy, to be honest. I mean, I was fortunate enough to work. Wife was fortunate enough to still work. But yeah, it just sucked because my wife works in senior living, and I don't want to like go out to and try to be responsible. Then the whole time I was like the few times I would go, I was like, I might just murder her entire residential like work area. This would be terrible. So I stayed in a lot, which was like good for a lot of things. Like I was able to get caught up on a lot of reading, which was nice. But comedy wise, brutal, fucking brutal.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that. But before we do, tell everybody on social media, which platforms are you on? Where can we find you?
The main one just be Instagram. It's just at Joshua Lay, my name. Then I have like a website that I put stuff. It's been a minute, but just joshualay.com. I somehow lucked out, was able to get my own name. Not to be confused with joshlay.com. It's a disaster. There's another comedian named joshlay.com, but thank God he's like a bald white dude, so we look nothing alike. But he's also like a comic, but he's like legit successful. He like worked for like Jimmy Fallon, a bunch of other stuff. But it's really weird. And like when I was figuring that out years ago, I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. But
Well, that's okay. I think it's like Michael B. Jordan, you know what I mean? Like eventually it's just gonna happen. And
true.
Well, so the basis of the podcast we talk about, because for me, comedy started in a very vulnerable place. It's still something I feel really vulnerable about. So I like talking with other comics to see if that's the same for them. I automatically assume that it's like my experience is universal, but obviously it's not. So I want to first talk about you. What's comedy for you? What is comedy? Define it for me.
Ooh, that's gonna be tough to define without rambling, I feel like. But yeah, I mean, hey, I'm all about being vulnerable too. I listened to the other episode. I think I might be the first one to cry on it. That's gonna be my thing. But no, comedy to me, I mean, it's a form of expression. The thing I like about it is that it is for everybody, even if people have different sensibilities or how they perform comedy or how they write it. But I mean, everybody likes to laugh, albeit it could be different subject matters. But like it's just a really great thing to do, and for people like me, it was a real easy way to kind of express and slash connect with other people.
What do you mean, people like you?
Just really
people like you.
Very, very shy, and then just little like I don't know, probably a little like personally afflicted with some things to where in elementary school and then middle school, high school, I just always felt uncomfortable. Even now, like when we're at bars, whatever, at a show, I always just feel real like just out of my mind, like, oh God, like it's so stupid. But
are you an introvert or an extrovert? So I'm guessing, it sounds like pretty much an introvert, right?
Yeah, I don't know. So like my wife Abby, I was like, you're an extrovert, 100%. I was like, I don't know. I mean, inside I don't feel that way. Maybe my actions, but inside like it's twisting, and then I overthink, and I'll like beat myself up in the moment, and then like but internally, and then like when I outside of the after the fact, I'm like, oh, this is ugly. But I mean, of course, when I'm around certain people, or even if it's at least one person that I feel pretty close with, I would say like I can be extroverted because in essence, I'm just trying to make that person laugh or like, just goof off.
Yeah.
But like if you see me at work, I'm not super close with coworkers. Also, I don't know how to like talk to them, like just like normally without being vulgar or immature, I guess.
Do you think that's
Yeah.
a universal comedic trait though? Because I do feel that comedians, once you've established yourself in that threshold, they're just people always going for the joke. And people who are not in comedy, particularly if you're like at a, a workplace that is not full of comedians, and you're going for the joke, there can be a lot of awkward situations. Does that happen to you? Do you ever get yourself into awkward spots?
Yeah, for sure. But what sucks is a lot of times the awkwardness, like it won't even be me trying to be funny. It's just like it's me trying to communicate or just like to have a conversation that it gets tripped up and all that weird stuff. But
Yeah.
to go back a little bit, yeah, like comedy, that's just kind of I guess what it is for me. And I don't know, like you mentioned, I grew up in Oklahoma and stuff, and
Mhm.
I was like predominantly the only Asian dude for the most part. And then I was really shy. I'm really bad about mumbling now, but even when I was younger, I was like really bad, like just nothing would come out. And I don't like the only way that I was able to like make friends was just, you know, we would laugh or like, a person would do something, I'd laugh like, oh, okay, here we go. But yeah, I don't know.
So you
Bit
found,
strange.
so what was then comedy? How did, if that was like your roots where you would connect with people laughing with them, when did you decide that, you're like, all right, let me take this to the next level and try comedy?
Well, I wanted to do it ever since like even probably fifth grade, middle school and stuff. But I was always super shy, like at crazy stage fright. Like I remember middle school, like they had like drama class stuff, which I loved. It was really cool and real fun just to try to be goofy. I hated like all the serious stuff just because I couldn't take myself seriously in those like scenarios. But then so like in middle school, it was always fun because like I really want to do it, but I was too shy to do like any of the performances or like any of the talent shows. I was like, especially
Mhm.
because I didn't have a talent. Like it's not like I could really tell jokes. Like
Did
I could
any
do
kids
stupid
go up
stuff.
and tell jokes in fifth grade? Was that like
No,
any of the talents like that they would have, like,
yeah, I guess a lot of like tap dancing. I guess kids are doing. But yeah, and then even in like high school, like I so badly wanted to be in like the theater group of people, but I was too shy and nervous. But I was like, I want to do it because like that would be like a way to
yeah.
perform. And also in Oklahoma, there's not like a comedy scene or anything, not like out here to where you can just go somewhere. And then so to kind of go a little further, like senior high school, I was like, "Oh, I guess I should go to college maybe. Like I'll take the ACT and stuff." And up getting into OSU, Oklahoma State University, and I was like, I don't know what I want to go for, but I know I want to go to writing because like even in like English class, I'd always write and like try to write really funny stories or stupid things, and I always wanted to write because I was like, I'm too shy to perform. Maybe I can
Mhm.
just write stuff.
Yeah.
And then my idiot self was like, all right, I'll go to Oklahoma State. What are you gonna major in? I was like, comedy writing. Like, we don't have that. I was like, what, writing? Like, so you mean journalism? I was like, sure. And then
Ah,
like just like a semester in, I was like, oh, I mean, this stuff's pretty interesting, but this is what I want to do. So then I was like, I'll do creative writing, which was actually a like a blessing, I think, just because to not even like think about writing sketches and stuff or like
yeah.
but just to really break down writing and prose. And then I was like, I'll minor in theater too, because I thought you had to have a minor to graduate. I was like, oh yeah, it just makes sense. And people
Yeah.
are like, you don't have to do that. Like 2 years then, I was like, oh, well, it worked out. But it's still funny because I didn't hang out with any of the theater kids. I just did like the theater classes, and they're always like, who is this kid? That's all like he doesn't
You're
he
just
doesn't act.
around.
Yeah, it was
You
just
were just
really goofy.
lurking.
Yeah, like I do now at comedy shows. But um, so yeah, that's a ramble of sorts, but so I always want to do that stuff.
Well,
And
I feel
then
like though what you talked about is exactly like tapping into what we should be tapping into. Like, you said for the longest time you wanted to do it, and you didn't do it.
yeah,
So would you say like for you, like that's your feeling of vulnerability is like having that desire to want to do something and not executing it?
when I was younger, I mean now that I do it and I don't have like the stage fright with that stuff, I would say with vulnerability is different, which I think would be a good thing because it's showing that like
Mhm.
I'm thinking differently, and I guess to sound real pretentious, like growing, right? But
Well, hey, that's
uh
not you think that's pretentious?
I mean, if I were to listen to someone else saying what I just said, like, look at this douche, like, come on.
But don't you
But
you don't wanna grow? Like, could you imagine what about the opposite? You're saying, "Hey, I never wanna grow?" Like,
oh yeah,
who would
no,
you rather
exactly.
be? The
True.
pretentious douche or the man stuck in, you know?
Very, very true. And I that kind of reminds me, like, seeing other comics and stuff, especially now, like if you go to, like, or when mics are, accessible and prevalent, you'd see like people like, oh, I wish I would have started younger. And I was like, no, why? Like, you're doing it now, it's probably better. Because I used to think the same thing. But and I think about the stuff that, like, the kind of humor I would write or like aim for or think that I would say, like, man, that's bad. I mean, that's just growing pains of it too. But
Yeah.
um I'm glad I didn't do it younger. And then if I would have got a decent response to that material, then it probably just would have kept me going in that direction, which in my mind would have been pretty rough, I
So
think.
what would have those things sounded like? What would have been some of those topics you would have written about that you wouldn't
Um,
wanna that's not who you wanna be now?
Definitely just a lot of like just crude, crass humor, even though a lot of stuff I say now, I guess it would fall into that category, but I would just classify it more as like pretty juvenile, um, like not a lot of like not to say that any of the jokes I tell now have, any substance behind it, but just real dumb, silly stuff that
Mhm.
I like that teenage boys, young boys would laugh at, and
Yeah.
like, cause definitely at that age, like, so basically, it's like picture like Judd Apatow movies, kind of like 40-year-old version, of everything. It's like my friends always loved that because that's how we'd kind of joke about before. And then like
Uh-huh.
that became like the mainstream comedy blockbuster uh, comedy
Yeah.
vein in a way. So it would have been like just really bad
So
that.
what do you joke about now then?
Well, this is, hey, this, you're a good interviewer because it ties into the vulnerability stuff now. I try to so I try to just joke about things that would be specific to me, and it might not seem that way with some of them because I mean, I'm not a great joke person, but yeah, I gotta. But because one of my biggest concerns is always like I don't want to say something that's been said a million times or that kind of uh, is similar to other people's jokes. So the way I try to like avoid that is like, all right, what's something that's really personal to me from my perspective that I can share that could either be relatable in some sense of like that feeling maybe other people have or that silliness, or it's just like a way to for me to just kind of get it off my chest, deal with it, but and with at least with like levity and stuff.
Yeah. So then how much, because I feel like comedy, like again, I've been talking about this with some comedians, like it's to me, I feel like it's a spectrum. Like, you have your classic joke writing, you have your performers who are joke writers and they go up and they memorize their jokes and they repeat their jokes and they're excellent in the art of joke writing. And then I feel like you have the opposite end of the spectrum because again, I feel like there's a lot with stand up besides the writing, you have the whole performative aspect of it. Um, I feel like then there's comics who go up there with like this is me and this is who I am and I'm just going to show off myself and be my truest self and just really share my truest self. So which side would you kind of like fall closer to, do you think?
Joke writing.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, because one, I don't have the confidence to be like, this is me, nor do I think that I'm that interesting to be like, hey, this is me, this is myself, what up? Not at all. But uh, yeah, definitely joke writing because I think I also like when I was younger, I'd mentioned that I wanted to be like a writer, but I'll be a comedian slash writer, joke writer.
Yeah.
Um, and so I get, and plus I'm more just naturally drawn to that. Like, I love reading in general. So it's fun just to hear jokes and really think about how they're constructed and everything. That's what I like. It's not fun to break down jokes and talk about them, but to me, it's just to kind of figure it out. Like, oh, okay,
Oh yeah, no, it's
that's,
never. I feel like yeah, exactly. It's never fun to like break down the jokes, and
mhm.
that's why too. I know this paincast can or this podcast can be really painful for people because it's like, all right, let's do that. Let's take everything apart and look at all the uncomfortable bits. Oh, like about though, because you said before, just a little bit ago, that you said like your comedy now is more about you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it like how much of you are we getting? How
So I mean, whenever I say me, I guess it's more of like things that I've experienced and how it made me feel, I think. Or I try to make anything that really was kind of shitty or that seemed to have an effect on me, big or small, but I just try to frame it to that. Like when I say it's me, it's not more like, here's me and my mannerisms, my actions, my confidence. It's more like, here's stuff that I think about, reflect on, or here's things that have happened to me that really have, done some damage, or done some positive things. I just try to frame it in that way. And also, I mean, I don't know. A lot of it too is just I want I'm so concerned a lot of times that just stepping on other jokes or retelling a joke that's been done, that I was like, well, I can avoid that, or I can avoid like some of the tired topics that you hear at an open mic or even like a comedy show.
yeah.
So like I can avoid that if I just focus on what's specific to me, what's for another pretentious thing, what's authentic to me, and what can I figure out from there? Because that's what at least will make me laugh, or worst case scenario, make my wife laugh, or maybe my brother or sister.
Are you, is that, so then are you looking for that then, for yourself? Like, even if, like you just said, at least at the, I'll get a laugh. So how much of comedy is just for yourself?
Um, it depends. So I would like to write. I mean, I don't want to like write for myself. Obviously, I want to entertain people, make them laugh, and have a good time. But um, probably a good amount. I mean, I can't put like a percentage on it, but I definitely probably lean more into that way because I can be kind of an emotional dude. So I think it's the way to process it. And growing up, I didn't know how to process like emotions. It just wasn't taught to me. So I got like negative ways of doing it, I guess, just like with anger or just holding it in.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna cry, dude. You're gonna get me to cry.
You can cry. I'll cry with you. I love to cry. You need
Oh,
to cry
crying's
at least like once a week, like have a good blubbering, snot-filled cry. Really,
oh, absolutely.
yeah.
Crying's awesome.
It's so
Uh,
awesome. Get it all out, and just level yourself out. And then after you feel just like, I'm good. So then, okay, comedy, because like again, to me, like I feel like comedy can be so many things for so many people. But what before we go back to comedy, I want to talk about vulnerability a little bit more. Because you said vulnerability for you is different. So as in where you are in this space in time, what's vulnerability for you? What does it mean? Or what would happen? Or what would you talk about in your comedy that would make you feel vulnerable?
the things that I've tried it like a few times at like open mics and stuff. But I feel most vulnerable is whenever I try to talk about just experiences growing up that were really awful, that suck. And so I get like, all right, I'll see. Look, this is what I'm saying. I get in my own head. I'm thinking too much. I'll quit worrying about if I sound like an ass. So like the traumatic experiences and things that I may have gone through, or that my close immediate family have gone through. And when one family member goes to that, you all experience it together if you're pretty close, which my family for the most part is. But there's some things I want to joke about that we had to deal with growing up. And a lot of times, you know most of the time it's probably me for not finding the right joke to it, or the right fine tuning it. But a lot of times when I've done it, it just made people sad and kind of bummed out, to where whenever I say what I would think is the punchline that would get a laugh, it's just people like, oh man. I was like,
Yeah.
that. And plus I get more choked up and like get the yips about it when I try to tell those kind of jokes, because I guess I'm just like, Like I get definitely like more nervous about that kind of stuff.
So do you think a couple things? Do you think that, because especially to a lot of comics I've talked with, have said that you can make anything funny, right? So
Right.
when you said that the joke, it's funny to you, but the audience feels sad. Do you think that it may be the topic? Like, why do you think it could still be worked on or tweaked to where that you are getting the reaction you're getting is getting the same reaction from the audience? You know what I mean? Because that's what you're looking for. If you think it's funny, that's what you want. You want audience to connect with you on that. So it's like, do you think you could still work through it? And do you think your lack of confidence in it impacts how the audience perceives it?
So I definitely think that it can still be workable where it is funny, where the joke does come through, more often than not, yeah, probably my lack of confidence fucks it up. But also just I sometimes I wonder because I'll think about it, and so to not be so vague, I guess. So like my family like grew up like really poor, like just ass poor, and evicted a lot, very dysfunctional, broken home thing. So what I try to like talk about some of the evictions and like that, how it felt, what it's like, especially when you still have to go to school and you're like that whole weird feeling of just feeling like a loser and stuff. And like sometimes I don't know whenever I'm telling it and people hear it if they're just kind of like processing it, like, or maybe sometimes it's a little foreign to some people. Or like, oh, that's crazy, because I don't know. A lot of people get confused or weird. Like even whenever I talk to like in private conversations about growing up, like what it's like to be poor and experience like no utilities or not have a place to stay or like any consistency in that regard, they're always like, huh, really? So like it's like what? Like everyone just kind of gets like a movie idea, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
It always it's kind of hard to translate to make it accessible to people if they've never really, I guess, experienced it or seen it firsthand in a
How,
realistic manner.
how could comedy help make that accessible for people? Because I feel like that's what the power of comedy is. And, people who haven't, um, experienced that, how do you think comedy can make it accessible for them?
I think that might be the golden question where you know that the joke's working and everything. But I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different ways, maybe. And then sometimes I think maybe the stand up isn't the best way to get it across. Um, but that's just probably because I'm not the best stand up. I just haven't figured it out yet, maybe. But it could be one of those things where it's like, yeah, this joke was more suitable for this kind of space. But
Do you think stand-up can be figured out though?
no, hope not, because if that was the case, then it wouldn't be unique, and
Yeah. Well, think
people's
about
personalities
yourself.
wouldn't matter.
If you had started it when you were so long, like, when you initially wanted to, what you said, how you said the whole trajectory would have been changed to compared to where you are now. Um, Also, I think a lot as well, because we have the whole physical element, not just writing, we're physically changing all the time. And, as a woman that's aging rapidly, it's like, you know what I mean? It's something I'm cognizant of. So thinking about your own self, like how, I don't understand how, I mean, I guess there's formats to writing jokes, but in terms of, I don't know, like, can you really figure out stand up? Because I feel like stand up essentially comes from the place of an internal drive, and you're
Right.
the one ultimately defining it. So, what's your ultimate definition of success for you in comedy?
I mean, I definitely have like multiple viewpoints of success, right? I think there's the um, unrealistic viewpoint, but I mean, I would like to uh, just have consistent shows, and then even to I don't know. I mean, so and this is the worst. I'm just stuttering everywhere. So I mean, one way of success to me would always be like, all right, am I at least able to pay the normal bills and be okay. Like, is my wife be like, what the hell, this sucks? Because I mean, and plus I grew up poor. I don't want to grow up in the same situation where I'd stress out by the stuff. Not that I want to be rich, but I just want to have consistency. Um, but I don't know. I mean, uh, comedy's cool, and that it's something you could just do and perform. Even if you're not quote unquote successful. Um, I don't ever plan on not doing it, even if I'm not, what my original perception of success was. But I mean, as long as I'm able to go out there and even come up with new jokes that work or that feel good, I think that's fine.
How come? Why will you do it no matter what?
Why? Because it's very enjoyable and something that I really need. And I love skateboarding as well. That was like my first real obsession, and a lot of the same thrills and fun that I get from skateboarding, especially as a young kid, I get from comedy. And there's something about whenever you become kind of ingrained in these little subculture kind of things. You're just with a lot of different characters and personalities, and it's fun, and it's just it's just all amusing. I don't know. It's cool.
Yeah, it's been interesting. And then how do you think being from Oklahoma, has that influenced doing comedy? Like in the Northeast, do you feel that there's regional differences in senses of humor?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, comedy up here is better for sure.
Yeah.
Just people have more access to it, and uh, I mean, Northeast is very lucky that it's one of the main hotbeds of comedy where there's so much history. But then so again, in Oklahoma, it was like non-existent. Like it was, I mean, now they have like a few comedy club stuff, but they all are not anything to be excited about really. And then there's just no comedy scene. Like
Yeah.
it's not like you have consistent open mics to go to, and then the people that do it there just are more so like, oh, I was there to do it, or like that corny shit.
What would you say to then our listeners in Oklahoma then who are missing out on not having a big comedy scene? What advice would you give them?
To what I've found out from people around here, just you can start it up pretty easily. That's what's pretty cool about it. It's a very, DIY like ethos behind it, because it's like, hey, I just go to this bar real quick. Hey, you guys kind of set this up, and so you can definitely get it started pretty easily, as it appears. And I know that, I mean, I haven't lived in Oklahoma for 6 years now, so it's definitely changed a lot since I was last there. But like I know in Tulsa, they're starting to, where I'm from, they're starting to have like more open mics, like specific comedy shows at some like the dive bars and everything. But yeah, I mean, people should just barge it that way. Like just, we can make it ourselves. It doesn't have to be a big fancy thing, which is something I'm starting to kind of learn and actually process and deal with better.
I feel like that's a good life lesson though. It's like a lot of things like don't have to be this big thing. It just has to be done. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Just has to be done. So Joshua, it's been so wonderful talking with you. Can you do me a favor one more time and just plug all of your social media for us?
Yeah, the main one would be Instagram at Joshua Lay. And then you could also go to joshualay.com. You might find some random shit there.
Very good. Well, it's wonderful to talk with you as always. As we wrap up, I just have one more question for you. Okay. As a comedian, okay, you got to choose. Would you rather be respected by your fellow comedians or respected by the general audience for your joke writing?
Comedians.
Oh, why?
Because I to kind of make it related back to skateboarding a little bit, because my whole skateboarding thing, I think, has kind of skewed my viewpoint and feeling towards a lot of stuff. So a skateboard, like you can be like really good, do a bunch of crazy tricks and shit, but it can be awful looking, like style wise, just looks like shit, doesn't look proper, doesn't look right. And it's, the general public like, oh, that's sick, that's super cool. But like the other people that actually skate and are down to like, or legitimate, or that just actually understand it, like, oh no, like that's kind of whack, that's kooky, like get out of here. And so to get respect from the peers that are a little bit like-minded or that have integrity, like that's way more cool than just general acceptance. Because I mean, you can go to any kind of comedy show, whether it's a professional show or open mic, and you can hear someone kind of do some, hacky whatever jokes that will be crowd pleasers, crowd crushers, but you're just like, man, fuck that. Like, there's nothing behind it. It's so
Yeah.
inauthentic.
The marshmallow fluff of comedy. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which, who knows? Maybe that's what I am. Who knows?
Oh. Well, you're silly. I hope to see you again, my friend. It's been so wonderful to talk with you.
For sure. Thank you for letting me be on. I'm digging the pod. Keep making them.
Yay, thanks for being on, you guys. Thanks so much, Joshua.